7 yeas, 45 abstentions. The BIR is adopted. Question for the body's passage of HB 289. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 10 yeas, 93 abstentions. HB 289 passes. Clerk, call the next bill.
On page 21 of the calendar, House Bill number 294 by Representative Butler relating to Etowah County.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Everybody voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 57 yeas, 43 abstentions. The BIR is adopted. Question for the body now is final passage of HB 294. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine. 12 yeas, 87 abstentions. HB 294 passes. Clerk, call the next bill.
On page 21 of the calendar, House Bill number 301 by Representative Easterbrook relating to Choctaw County.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. BIR is adopted. Question now before the body's final passage of HB 301. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 13 yeas, 88 abstention. HB 301 passes. Ladies and gentlemen, we have special guests in the gallery. Holy Spirit Elementary School, Miss McDowell's fourth grade class. Please stand to be recognized. Welcome. Welcome to the Alabama House of Representatives. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a resolution.
Clerk will receive the resolution.
House Resolution number 95 by the House Rules Committee, the Special Order Calendar.
Chairman Lovern, you are recognized.
I move adoption.
The members, the question for the body's adoption of the resolution. All in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution is passed. The clerk will call the first bill in the special order calendar.
On page 19 of the calendar, House Bill number 167 with substitute by Representative Treadaway relating to motor vehicles.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Treadaway.
Thank you. What this bill does in a nutshell, most of you are familiar with the orange stickers that are placed on cars. When you have a car towed in that you've off private property, somebody that's been in a wreck, these vehicles have to be put into the Department of Revenue portal. Abandoned vehicle portal allows any citizen to go in there and see where their vehicle is. An example be you're by yourself, you're in a wreck, you go to the hospital, and you're trying to find your vehicle. Well, it's not in the portal. Why is that? Because the Department of Revenue's website makes folks, tow companies, wait 48 hours before you can put it into the system. What this bill does allows for the immediate entry so citizens can find their vehicle. It updates the Department of Revenue's website on abandoned vehicles. Worked with them on this bill, and basically that's what it does. It just updates the situation, helps those individuals who have a vehicle that is being held somewhere, but having to wait to be put into the system is causing unnecessary storage fees. And with that, I do have a substitute, but if there's any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Chair recognizes Representative Hall from Madison.
Oh my gosh, how you doing? I know you read the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
When I initially read this, I said, wait a minute. why would we want to amend this law to change the number of hours? We're going from 5 days to what, 48 hours?
No, actually, we're not changing the 5 days. Under state law, you've got 5 days to enter it. But let's say you get possession of that vehicle, you're a tow company, you have possession of that vehicle immediately because it's a wreck, or many other type situations. That vehicle cannot be put into the public portal where all of us can go on the site right now to find that vehicle for a minimum of 48 hours. What this bill simply does is remove that, updates the portal's website, allowing folks who are in possession of a towed vehicle to place it in immediately. So that's all it does. The 5 days is still there. You have 5 days to enter it,
Right.
but in many cases, you're delayed. You've seen the orange stickers. Those are what they call 48-hour stickers.
Right.
You've seen the car. Let's say that car was pulled in, and you have a tow company. Now the family comes out there to get it, and it's gone.
It's what?
It's
locked.
gone. It's
Yes.
been towed. They don't know where it's towed. You go onto the portal, you can't find it. Now, 3 days, on the third day, you find your vehicle, but you go to pick it up, and you find out you've been charged for 3 days of storage because you got it on the first day. The record company is not allowed to put it into the system for 48 hours, but no longer than 5 days. So really, this is a updates the state law, and it's really a consumer type bill because they're incurring additional storage that they shouldn't have to incur.
And that's why, yeah, and that's the point that I wanted to make. What I've seen and heard from people happening is that for various reasons, their cars are towed.
Right.
That individual may end up, as you said, in the hospital, or sometimes may have
Being
been
at a
arrested.
restaurant, being at a restaurant, private property, and it gets towed. right off.
Exactly. Yeah, we've had it. And the way I initially saw it is that what you were doing is increasing the possibility of that individual having a hard time to get his or her car. You're saying it's going to make it more convenient,
Right, absolutely.
that they can go then to the Department of Revenue. So when they take the
To
car,
the public website.
Right.
You can go to on right now.
okay, and instead,
Instead of it being delayed for 2 days, no longer than 5, this allows to be put into that public abandoned vehicle portal immediately. So if we were to look at it today, it's in there once this bill passes. Otherwise, it's not there today, it's not there tomorrow, and it could show up on the third day. You may have stopped looking. By the time you find your vehicle, you've incurred all these storage fees. So what this does is stop that. And I'll tell you where it came out of. A lot of this came out of the bigger city areas.
came out of what?
Out of Jefferson County areas of a lot of citizens' complaints with vehicles not being able to find, with individuals not being able to find it.
Right, okay.
This is going to allow immediate entry into the portal so there isn't that delay of that 48 hours. And a lot of people don't know that. They think the 5 days you got up to 5, which is true.
Right.
But you can't put it in immediately unless we amend it.
And so you're saying the towing company presently has up to 5 days presently.
That's correct.
And so this means that they must immediately,
They have yes, they can put it in immediately. Well, there's two portions here. There's the 5 day, and let's go back to that orange sticker. Let's go back to that orange sticker for a minute. That is a 48-hour sticker. There's a part of the law.
Yeah, right.
All right. So let's say you're in a wreck, and you get an orange sticker, but it gets towed before the 48 hours because it's a road hazard.
right,
They can't put it into the portal currently until they run the 48 hours, which the vehicle, the citizens incurring additional fees that they shouldn't have to. This bill, the 5 days stays, that's the law. You have 5 days to get it in the system if you got possession of it. But what it does, it doesn't make the individual tow company or the person in possession wait 48 hours to put it in. This changes that, what I call the orange sticker 48-hour delay. It removes that and lets them put it in immediately.
immediately. All right. So that's going to be an improvement for the consumer.
Absolutely. And the state, because it updates their system and things like that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
I love it when you come up because it seems to be an intelligent discussion.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. Now, you started in the right direction then when you started talking about that orange sticker. You know, in meeting, I asked about that. How long does it take for a car to be towed when that orange sticker is placed upon it? And you didn't give an answer in the meeting, but you said 48 hours today. I've seen road hazards. I've seen cars on the side of the road for weeks
Right.
and with that orange sticker.
That's right.
And so this is going to make them move those things within 48 hours. Are you saying that there's a mandate?
No, because, you know, if you're in an area of the state or you got an orange sticker and that department's not doing its job and it's not a road hazard, yes, it can sit there. But once an individual becomes in possession of the vehicle, once you're in possession of that abandoned vehicle,
Once the tow company,
right, then you can put it in immediately. Right now, there has to be, once you become in possession of it, you let a 48-hour window run. And that is incurring additional charges on the consumer, and it's creating a lot of complaints and lawsuits that this, in my opinion, would correct, because if I own a tow company, I become in possession of your vehicle, whether you were in a wreck, you're in the hospital, or your family's trying to find a vehicle, then I can put it in immediately so they can find it. And that's what this does. It just fixes the current law.
now, I hope it corrects this issue too, because in an accident, which I'm speaking of an accident that I know about, a person get hurt and he's in the hospital. The policeman working the accident called the tow company. They pull the man's vehicle and they don't tell him where his vehicle is, and he doesn't want his vehicle at that tow. And so he got to pay twice. He got to pay for the towing, then he got to pay for the storage. And I think this is a ripoff. So how are we going to help those consumers with this issue with your bill?
Well, in my opinion, it's going to allow them to put the vehicle in immediately. Most, if not all, I don't know of any department, including the state troopers, that has their own record service. So they all contract, and they have a revolving, pick list depending on what part of the state you're in. Where it fixes it is when they call that whoever's on the roll call or whoever's up next. Once they get possession of it, they can now enter it instead of telling the consumer that I could not enter it for 2 days, and that's why. And a lot of folks, they go into the system, they don't find it. They may be delayed now a week or two. So this is going to allow real time to enter it into the system, and it can be found. This has nothing to do with law enforcement, because when they have it towed, there's laws in place. This is one of them that oversees the tow company on what they have to do. This moves that delay and allows it to go in immediately so you can find your vehicle.
Well, a good bill. I'm still concerned about that person that had to pay twice. See, because that contractor and that police officer called that record company, he picks up the wrecked vehicle, take it to his storage
Right.
yard, and that's a $400 there. Then he got to stored it. Then the guy trying to get his vehicle, he got to pay $800+ to get his vehicle. He didn't even want it at the storage at that particular place in the first place. So that's what I'm trying to say. This is not helping that situation at all,
No, this
but it's
doesn't touch
speeding
it.
up the process of your entering. And I thank you for that. And that's going to help, because the person loses his vehicle and got to pay all this storage and don't even know, can't find it, don't know where it is until he get a bill. This is going to move some of that anxiety and cost.
Right.
Thank you for the bill.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 100 yeas, 3 abstentions. The BIR is adopted.
I do have a substitute, Mr. Speaker.
Clerk will receive the substitute.
You have a copy? Okay.
It's
What-
committee sub, okay.
You want me to explain it?
Question for the body is adoption of the substitute. Clerk, all the members will vote. Clerk will unlock the machine. This is the committee substitute, right? Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 90 yeas, no nays, 11 abstentions. The substitute is adopted.
What, you want me to explain the substitute, Mr. Speaker? I'm going to explain the substitute. What the substitute does is on line 46 through 48 on page 2, we simply updated the language to make it clear. So it says, a person in possession of a towed motor vehicle may report the vehicle to the Department of Revenue immediately after. And then to go into effect, there was a mistake. They had 2026, and it just changed it back to October 1, 2025, date of goes into effect.
Heard the explanation of the substitute. The question for the body is now final passage of HB 167. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 100 yeas, 3 abstention. HB 167 passes. Clerk will call the next bill on the special order calendar.
On page 12 of the calendar, House Bill number 158 by Representative Klaus, relating to the retirement systems of Alabama.
Chair recognizes Representative Klaus from Dale County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members of the House. This bill we passed, this is one of the many bills we passed in the House last year that never got through the Senate. And it just simply dealing with, in case we were to give a COLA to state employees and education employees, that each year it would have to be identified in the budget as far as the funding source. It is something, as I explained last year, that I've been thinking about for a number of years, and it's not my idea. This came from folks in the fiscal office that had years of experience. Back in 04, 05, and 6, when the legislature gave COLAs, the last one being in 6, we never gave the money to RSA. We just instructed RSA to pay it, and their unfunded liability dropped from the 90% down to the low 50s, and it's back now in the 60, mid-60s, a higher 60 range due to the stock market increase, due to employees, retirees in that era that have since passed away. And of course, that obligation is going down, and the unfunded liability part as a result is coming up. But this just simply says we have to identify it in the budget and provide the funding there for a COLA on a yearly basis. So if there's not any questions, Mr. Speaker, I ask for the BIR.
Chair recognizes Representative Hall from Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the gentleman yield.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to say thank you as one of those persons who've been is a part of the retiree system. But more importantly, we've talked about each year this process. We've talked about new teachers or individuals coming into the teaching profession would begin, or there would be a portion of their salaries set aside within a pool of money, you know. Do you remember that conversation?
Well,
Or
I remember.
somebody gave that conversation.
I think it may have been something when we went back from that, that Tier 2 program, when we went through all that stuff
Right.
back in the 2010s and 11s. That may have been part of that, but that's not part of this bill.
And that's what I understand. So what we're doing is still at the same point that we are now when we start talking about providing some funding for retirees. We still are having to go back to the system that we're already using. This bill just means that you must identify that we're doing that.
On a yearly basis.
Okay.
Right, you can't just pass the COLA and then all of a sudden forget it, say
Exactly.
RSA, pick it
Exactly.
up. and they don't have a funding source. It puts the responsibility on us as a legislature each year when we're dealing with our budgets to provide the funds and identify it in the budget.
Right, and I think when we provide the funds, as I read this, I'm assuming this is a yearly process each year, even though we may not give a COLA or give any monies every time, but there would be a designated line item for
Well,
this.
no, it would be if we gave a COLA one year, that we have to provide the money and identify it the next year.
Where those funds go.
Right.
So where are we in terms of, or do you have any idea of, does that idea make any sense of all individuals who are in the teaching profession now or in education now, that as we go through or I understand, or maybe Georgia does this and other systems do this, that money is paid into from the income of those individuals who are within the system while they are working. And then when they retire, that money's then they're able to provide the type of COLAs that may be addressed in there.
I'm not familiar with
that.
Georgia's plan, but obviously it would be.
And I'm not sure it's
would be-
Georgia, so disregard it's Georgia,
right.
but I've
Right.
heard this before. So does that make sense though? I mean,
Well, it would make sense that you're providing a funding source.
yes.
And so
right.
that's been the quandary that we've been in for the last 15 years, is finding a source.
And I don't see this as providing a source
it does
as
not
much
provide a
as
source.
if we still are in the same, we're going to be in the same shape that we're still in.
Right. It just sets up a procedure in case we do find a source, that we just don't come through one year and provide the COLA
Right.
and not provide the money the next year to pay for that continuing COLA each year.
And so the people out there that are not here in the legislature, they don't understand that. They don't feel that. They don't see that. Everything, I will promise you, going out in your district, you will hear from people that are still saying, so they don't understand or they don't see that as thinking of them. So
Right.
I just wanted to know if had we given any thought, and if we're giving any thought, and I'd like to say that maybe we may want to look at and I'll be happy to start that process in terms of what we would do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Moore of Jefferson. While she's making her way down, the junior leadership class of Lake Martin from Tallapoosa County is here today as a guest of Representative Ed Oliver. Would you please stand to be recognized? Welcome to the Alabama House of Representatives.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative, I liked this bill last year, but I think that it ought to be the stepping stone, as Representative Hall say, when you go out into your community and retirees are saying, we can barely make it off of what we got. I do think it's a stepping stone for us to be more sincere at looking at some type of gaming bill that we can allocate portions of that fund to an investment fund to build up so that we will have a source to be able to provide these COLAs. So, it's a good process bill, but then I would hope that the powers that be would help us by looking again at some type of gaming bill to provide that source so that we could have some funding for them, because they're hurting. And as we look at things being cut in Washington, they're going to hurt some more. I'm a retiree, and I'm a federal retiree. And so, I know we get COLAs every blue moon, but at least we get them sometimes. But I just appreciate you continuing to fight to bring the bill up so we have a process to carry it out for them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Question for the body is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 100 yeas, 0 nays. The BIR is adopted.
Move for passage, Mr. Speaker.
Question for the body's final passage of HB 158. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 97 yeas, 2 nays, 4 abstentions. HB 158 passes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Claus. Ladies and gentlemen, we have special guests in the gallery. Huffman High School government class they're the guests of Representative Rolanda Hollis. Will y'all please stand, the Huffman, there they are back there. Welcome to the Alabama House of Representatives. In there. Clerk will call the next bill on the calendar.
On page 14 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 36 by Senator Kitchens relating to public contracts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the body, this
I
is
didn't
Senate Bill
recognize it.
36. We have a House companion, but we passed this bill last year unanimously, and it died on the last day upstairs in the Senate. But this is basically modernized the disclosure forms for people doing business in the state. It shortens the bid process through the appeal process of that, and it adds some clarifications and technical fixes for minor issues which have popped up over the last few years. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I would ask for the BIR.
Chair recognizes Representative Hall of Madison.
I didn't want to give you a chance to know.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you provide for me some of those technical or minor things that have occurred that would cause us to move to
Sure.
this particular bill? Yes, sir.
One of the main ones is all of these forms right now require wet signatures.
Wet signature.
Wet signatures and notarizations on paper. And what this does is make it to where they can actually do it online.
And I thought that's what you were referring
ma'am.
to when you said though that so you cannot. If the process is really an offline project when you're dealing with this particular issue.
Do what now? I'm sorry.
I said the process up to this bill is basically offline. It's not that you can't go online.
That's
to
correct.
Take care of it.
That is
Okay.
correct.
All right.
This makes you be able to go online and do it, and speeds up the process a little bit. It also changes now if somebody wants to protest the bid, you have to wait 14 days for somebody to protest the bid. This
How
makes
long
it
do we wait now? You wait 14.
wait
I thought
14
now.
days now.
Okay.
What this does is it gives you 5 days to do a small letter saying I want to protest the bid. And if nobody does that within 5 days, then the bid can go ahead and start.
Why do you say small letter?
Ma'am?
What's a small letter? You said a small.
Well, I mean,
letter.
it can
Give
be
me
just a couple of
letter.
sentences,
Oh,
one
you were
paragraph saying,
okay, sure.
I intend to protest the bid.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Question for the body's adoption of the BR. The clerk will unlock the machines and the members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 100 yeas, 0 nays. The BR is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if there are no further questions, I ask for final passage.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Representative Bracy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to take too much of your time today. I am concerned about something on the calendar, but it's not really this one, but I do have a question. So with this bill would revise the deadline for filing a notice of protest. Why are we taking that down?
Well, right now, just say you win a bid and I wanted to protest. If I didn't want to protest, we have to wait 14 days before the project can even start.
Right.
It's just there. It's going to have to wait 2 weeks. Now, in order to speed the process up, we're just going to say in 5 days, you have the opportunity to file a letter saying you want to protest the bid. Then it adds another 7 days for you to finalize that protest. So basically, if you're actually protesting, it's really only reducing it by 2 days.
So it's just making you move a little bit faster
Yes,
if
sir.
you want to protest instead
Yes, sir.
of. What about, sometimes people have to weigh the options to see if it's something that, they can do or not, or if it's worth actually going through the protest.
Mm-hmm.
And why did we have it at 2 weeks in the first place? It had to be a reason why we had it at 14 days. And it just seemed like going to 5 would be a significant drop. But I do understand how you're saying you're adding 7 back on
If
the
they do
5,
file a letter.
if they follow the letter within the 5 days.
The
So-
original reason for the 14 days was probably in the process of it had to be written out, it had to be wet signature, it had to be notarized, and all of those things, so it took a while.
So you're saying that because so what would be the options for being able to protest now?
You just file the simple letter, you can do it online, submit it, and move on.
So basically, because our communication has evolved over time, and we don't have to send letters by pigeons and
Yes, sir.
we
Don't
can
have to
send
put
an
it on the
email,
Pony
or we can do
Express.
something online and just expedite the process, which is why we're able to just kind of. Okay, all right.
Correct.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir. Appreciate
Yes, sir.
your
No
time.
problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question for the body's final passage of SB 36. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 103 yeas, no nays. SB 36 passes. Ladies and
Mr.
gentlemen,
Speaker.
I'd like to introduce Christina Warner McInnes from Baldwin County. She's the special guest of Representative Gibbons, Francis Holt Jones, and Representative Fiddler. Would you please stand? He's up there somewhere. And as you can see, we've been joined by the Alabama Federation of Republican Women. Please stand to be recognized and welcome to the Alabama House of Representatives. Thank y'all for being here with us today. Clerk will call the next bill on the special order calendar.
On page 10 of the calendar, House Bill number 66 by Representative Gidley relating to elder abuse.
Chair recognizes Representative Gidley.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Under existing law, various laws exist to ensure a person does not profit from intentionally killing another, including prohibiting an individual who intentionally and feloniously kills a decedent from receiving any benefits. This bill would take the current bill and expand it, that would provide that any individual who is convicted of elder abuse or financial exploitation of an elder person may not receive any benefits under the abused or exploited individual's will or no will, the intestate succession. Mr. Pro Tem, if there's no questions, I'll ask for the BR.
Question for the body's adoption of the BR. The clerk will unlock the machine as the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 101 yeas, no nays. The BR is adopted.
Mr. Pro Tem, if there's no questions, I'll ask for final passage.
Question for the body's final passage of HB 66. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 103 yeas, no nays. HB 66 passes. Clerk will
Thank
call
you.
the next bill in the special
Thank you,
order
buddy.
calendar.
On page 13 of the calendar, House Bill number 280 with substitute by Representative Allman relating to public nuisance.
Chair recognizes
Tem.
Representative Allman of Tuscaloosa County.
Mr. Pro Tem, can I interrupt? I was asked to open that for co-sponsors. Is that possible to still do?
Yes, can we open the machine for co-sponsors? Yeah, clerk will open the machine for co-sponsors.
All right, thank you so much. Sorry about that.
Does he want to co-sponsor this? Yeah, the clerk will lock the machine, record the course co-sponsors. Clerk will now call the next bill on the special order calendar, and the chair recognizes Representative Allman of Tuscaloosa.
Thank you very much. This is HB 280, which is a bill that has a very limited purpose. Currently, municipalities and public institutions of higher education are able and have legal authority to abate nuisances, public nuisances. The purpose of this bill is to allow them in very particular narrow circumstances called unpermitted events, when they have to shut down an unpermitted event and they incur extraordinary costs, which they often do, to be able to file suit against the promoters of the event and attempt to recoup their costs. We do have a substitute also, and happy to speak to that at the appropriate time, and I'll ask for the BIR.
Chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Jefferson County, Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you go in more details of what you're defining as a nuisance?
Well, nuisance can be a lot of different things, but in this particular bill, all we are asking to do is to be able to, we, being the city or an institution of higher education, they are asking to be able to attempt to recoup costs in situations where they have to go in and shut down unpermitted events that are
Well,
taking
what you would
place.
call an unpermitted event, because I remember a few years ago on the University of Alabama's campus, there was a speaker that was there that some students didn't want to be there. Would that speaker be called a nuisance, and the event he was participating in, would that come under this bill?
These particular events, the typical scenario would be this. These are parties that are advertised on social media. Tickets are sold. There's an undisclosed location of the party. And at the last minute, they disclose the location, and people from all over the place show up.
But you don't have that defined in here. The way this bill is written, it could be just about anything anybody wanted to be on any given day, because it talks about to abate or enjoin any public nuisance that's injurious to the health, morals, comfort, or welfare of a community. That could be a whole lot of things, and it goes beyond what you're just reading off there. So I think that this could be an infringement on people's First Amendment right, because it's so broad and it's left open to interpretation. And what I might term a nuisance might not be a nuisance, and what I might say be something that will cause a health situation or infringe on people's health or cause some harm to the community might be something completely different from what you're talking about. And this bill is not specific to what you're saying, but I do think that it could, over time, cause problems for people, and it could eventually end up where some people are targeted for the types of events they have. And when you're talking about a party or what might appear to be a party, you know, on our college campuses, sometimes when our fraternities and sororities get together, it might look like they're having a party, but they might be having an event that would benefit the public, but somebody might misinterpret the gathering as something that's offensive, or could be cause a health issue, or could just cause some type of harm to the community that's surrounding it. And when my event I might have, because of your life experiences, you might say that event is not morally right, but it's going to be based upon your life experiences and how morality has been defined for you, even though that we know under the law there are some definitions of immorality. And under our Christian values, there are certain situations that are determined as immoral. But then beyond that, you know, we in our aggressiveness being a part of different things, define different definitions of what's right and what's wrong and what's morally right. And because, you know, to show you an example of that, how we could take the word woke, that in the dictionary say somebody that's alert, aware, you know, of their surrounding. Now somebody has come along and changed the definition of that word to mean something negative, when in Mr. Webster's dictionary and all of the other people dictionaries they print, woke means to be aware, that you're alert, you can see. But is the new definition has been given by certain people, it's a negative thing to be woke. You need to be asleep all the time. So, you know, you have to watch out when you with bills like this. And I look at the different things that you specifically spoke of in the bill that I can interpret in the way I want to based upon my life experiences. And we all have different life experiences. So I believe that maybe we need to work on it some more to give some more clarity so that we can be more specific about what we're talking about. Because this is opening the door that's, to a certain extent, has already been open to be an infringement upon some people, when we have to look at certain people who change the definition of words. And once they pass those definitions around, it take hold, and the innocent public take it up the same way. Your moral standards beyond what's being defined, like in the state, we even equate some crimes with being moral turpitude, and there's a definition, but over time we've had to change it. So some of these words that you got in the problems that you're saying this nuisance will cause can cause a lot of problem in the long run. And I think that in the climate that we're in these United States of America right now, it's even more dangerous and should cause a lot more concern, that when we get into using this type of verbiage, that we will sit down to make sure that these bills that we're passing as lawmakers of this state, that we're not infringing upon somebody else's right. And what we want to do is be able to give people equal opportunities. So if I call the police or somebody and say that I feel as though this event is morally offensive to me, that then when a law enforcement will come, they could look and we need to be on the same page about it. But it should not be based upon my own personal experience and definitions of various words. I thank you for the opportunity to speak, Mr. Speaker, and I would hope that you would look at that, even though I know it won't happen in this body, but I know for the public, I want the public to know that we do have concern about this bill going forward in the state that it is and with the way that it's currently worded. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. And I 100% agree with you about those comments. And I would be happy to continue talking with you about it, or anybody about it, just to make sure we've got the language right. Just to be clear, the definition of public nuisance is what already exists in our law, and that's the one that talks about health, morals, comfort, or welfare. We're not changing that at all. And so we're right? Well, I hear you. So the very narrow circumstance we're attempting to recoup costs for are in the unpermitted events, where typically you're selling alcohol without a license, you don't have insurance to do so, and things of that nature.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Representative Bracey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the lady yield.
Yes, sir.
initially when I got the calendar, I was really excited about the bill. From my city council days before I came up here, I thought we were talking about public nuisance as far as overgrown lots and houses and weed abatements and, you know, other things that, you know, I guess in some communities are listed as nuisance. And I was like, man, so we're looking at taking and giving the counties and giving higher ed more opportunities to help us to clean up our cities, to clean up the right-of-ways and make sure that people are not dumping and, you know, some of the public nuisance. And then I had an opportunity to, I guess, take a deeper dive into it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the bills that I'm the most afraid of are these small bills. Because usually it's some code somewhere that's a lot thicker that we need to be able to kind of overlay and figure out exactly what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. And I always just kind of go to the why. So what determines if a person needs a permit, and what would they need to request a permit for? If you can, just kind of help me get some clarity.
I'm not going to be able to enumerate all the situations, but I can tell you the primary one is if you're selling alcohol. You need a permit, a license to do that. And you also need insurance to do that. And that's the context of, that's the problem we're having across the state. It's definitely a problem in all of our major cities, but it happens in the counties as well. And so that's
This bill is about people selling alcohol?
having large events that they have not gone through the proper process to get a permit to sell alcohol. And yeah.
I guess I'm confused. Wouldn't the ABC board and the local authorities already have the option to shut down?
Absolutely, and that's my point. They already have the ability to do this. We're not granting them any additional authority to do this, except all they're asking for. The city of Tuscaloosa, for example, will spend upwards of $100,000 on a weekend shutting down these parties. They're extraordinary costs that we don't feel the taxpayers should have to bear the burden. They're not your normal send a cop out to shut down a party and everybody scatters, like some of y'all did in high school. But you know, it's immense manpower to shut something down. It's a huge public safety issue. Is really what it is.
So this is about like college parties. So the selling of the alcohol, would that be like if a person throws a party and you pay a fee to get in the party and then you can just drink out of the garbage can or whatever? That's
If you're charging for people to come in and drink alcohol, that is and you hadn't gotten a license to do so, that is an unpermitted event. That's right.
How would you go about getting a license to do something like that? Because it's talking about like maybe like a frat party, right?
Right. So they routinely come before the city council and the city of Tuscaloosa, for example, and they get their license. It's a process that they all go through. Every week we have people up there getting their license to have a party, and if you do you know, there's all sorts of requirements to have a party like that for public safety reasons. They want you to have insurance, they want you to have security at these parties, and that's all great if you go through the proper process to do that.
Okay.
People do it every week, and we have multiple every week in Tuscaloosa primarily because of the university that's there. But when you do it without having gone through the proper process, it presents a public safety hazard, and that's when the problem arises.
Now, as far as like, so let's just look at the pros and cons for a second. It takes some manpower to shut these parties down, but the weekends that these games are being played, which a lot of these parties are surrounded by, you know, athletic events, probably mostly during football season. The economic impact that's really happening in the community to me, just far, far outseeds the cost of the taxpayers of just kind of regulating, make sure everything's under control. You know, nobody's just getting too rowdy. You know, I'm gonna knock on the door to say, hey, you know, turn the music down some. It seemed like that's a small price to pay, especially if nobody's actually getting hurt, compared to just the hundreds of thousands of people that are coming in, that are buying gas, buying beer, buying food, buying, you know, all these different things to celebrate, and they're tailgating all day long. It just seemed like it's a small price to pay compared to the true economic impact that the university is making on some of those weekends. Or do we know of anyone being hurt or something? Like, why is this a priority? Did something happen?
Often, not always. Often, there's gunfire.
Okay.
You just have throngs of people who sort of just show up, and people, again, selling alcohol without having gone through the proper process, or bothering to check IDs or do anything that they're supposed to do. Yes,
Right.
The cost to the city to get control of that situation far outweighs any economic benefit that we might get
But
for somebody buying gas or whatever.
I guess I differ, because if nobody's hurt, then I was in a fraternity. I went to college in New Orleans, and we had a great time. I don't drink alcohol now, but I did once upon a time, and we had Alpha Punch that we made. And man, all the girls used to love to come to our parties. We had a great time. We had them at different places. Sometimes we'll have them at Ray's house. And people would sometimes pay to attend our parties, and we had a good time. But it seems like something that's kind of innocent, that you just have young people having a good time, is now putting people in a situation where they can get in some real trouble for having a house party. Like, is house parties included in this?
You can still do all that, but if you're selling alcohol, the law is you need a permit to do that, okay, a license to do that from the city. And so, no problem, go get your license.
Okay.
You know, and honestly, if you're doing it and there's no problems, the police are never going to know about that, and they're not going to be spending money to shut down your party. The only time the police end up having to come is when there are
rowdy is happening.
Yes.
And because I guess I'm thinking, like,
I'm not saying it makes it legal. I'm just saying, you know, in reality, it's just.
Like, I could just picture a flyer that we would pass out to all the girls on campus, you know, ladies in free before 10, all the guys, it's gonna be $10 to get in, but it's gonna be free Alpha Punch all night. And just to make the party hype, you want the ladies to get in free because the guys are gonna come. But it's not really that we're selling alcohol, we're really selling a ticket to get in, and the alcohol is free. So would that be considered us selling alcohol?
Probably
what
so.
if a person come in, like, if I pay my $10 to get in, I don't drink, so that's the same $10 that another person paid to get in that does drink. So are we paying for entrance to a college party, or are we paying for alcohol? And I guess it's just a slippery how we defined it, because I'm just nervous about young people getting in some form of trouble because they don't think like we think. You know, they're not quite there, and you know, they take a lot more risks. They do a lot more things, a little bit more careless, even though they are transitioning to responsible adults. A lot of these are college kids that'll be, you know, they're starting to become productive citizens in our society.
Gentlemen's time has expired. The chair recognizes
Thank you.
Representative Ingram of Montgomery.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will you yield?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I just want to say thank you for bringing this bill. because we've had problems in every municipality, especially larger municipalities that I know of in the state. I mean, we've had several shot in a mass shooting in North Montgomery. We had one in Pike Road. We've had parties just about every weekend in my district in the summertime. We had the shooting in Birmingham. We had 17 shot and 4 dead. That just made an arrest. We had in Tuskegee and Macon County. So it's it's something that we've got to take action on because it's our young people. And we can't control it because a lot of these parties, you know, may show up on social media starting at 11 o'clock at night, and we don't have the manpower to control it. And they don't give any heads up, you know, but we've gone in and busted one here right outside of Montgomery in my district and made 14 arrests, had 6 warrants, had 4 large drug possessions, and it's something that we've got to get a control on. And I know we ran it through county municipal, and I think it was unanimous if I'm not mistaken, but good dialogue, great bill. Thank you for bringing it.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Ms. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Lomax of Madison to be the 4th and final speaker on the BIR.
Representative Ullman, thank you for bringing this. You know, we've got a problem in a lot of these places where you're putting undue pressure on, honestly, the local municipalities or the universities. You know, testosterone and alcohol are a heck of a mix in a lot of cases. You know, I can be the first to admit to that, you know, having participated in similar parties way back when. But now I can say that, you know, this is something that I'm very happy that we're looking at, you know, here in the previous comments. We got to take care of these universities. We got to take care of the municipalities because in some cases they're essentially breaking up riots. I mean, that's what these things can turn into. These are bad combinations where it's not just a party. It's not a get-together. It becomes, honestly, in some cases, an unauthorized business where they're looking to make money. They're selling alcohol. They're not going through business licenses. They're not going through alcohol licenses. They're not getting the proper insurance to be able to operate these kind of parties. So this just gives resources. This gives an option to our local municipalities as well as our universities. I definitely appreciate you bringing that, and I'm looking forward to the good changes so we can help prevent tragedies. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 71 yeas, 23 nays, 7 abstentions. The BIR is adopted. Chair recognizes Representative Travis of Hale.
I also have a substitute whenever we need to. I also have a substitute whenever we need to get that up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With a gentle lady here.
Yes, sir.
I was, in reading the bill and everything, I know you said it made reference to alcohol and everything, but I didn't see that in the bill where it was specified out that alcohol. And what I'm concerned about, just based upon some prior observation and everything, is that things would be deemed public nuisance even though they haven't been permitted and everything. And there's no alcohol. And that's something that's not clear. For instance, we can take in Tuscaloosa where there's a celebration like Alabama beat Auburn, you know, and the gathering that occurs of the crowds and everything out on the strip and everything. And you know, in the police department, the chief wants to declare it a public nuisance, too many folks out there. Same thing that I've seen that have been around, you know, happens with its championship celebrations, you know, and everything, crowd gatherings and stuff like that. And oftentimes I think it's handled public nuisance. These events, you know, that you do have crowd gatherings and not selling alcohol, but they also can be deemed that they have went through the proper permitting process. But then they made decisions, and I'm making reference to local things that happened, you know, because I told them, you know, one of the things that happened this past year, dealing with me and my fraternity, we were celebrating our 50th year anniversary. and we had put in place as year planning, and that we had planned our event that so that it would not conflict with 8A game, 8A weekend. Well, unfortunately, with the new coach, 8A weekend changed to the same weekend our organization was on it. I'm telling you, we was celebrating our 50-year anniversary. We have likes, you know, like Ozzie Newsome, Johnny Davis, all those present who were also not only dealing with the event of our celebration, but also stuff with the football program. But then we had, you know, a part of that thing was always as being a picnic that we've always provided, that we had got permitted from the Park and Recreation Authority and stuff like that. But then the locals, no problems happening, but just because it was 8A weekend, the local police chief decides to come and shut the events down. No nuisance, nothing improper being done, but it was declared a public nuisance because it said it was happening 8A weekend. We just had that whole issue happen, even thing where even Hayes Webb, the district attorney there, was having something that Boulder Power Pavilion, because it's 8A weekend with the Kiwanis, he's got to close the event down. And so what I'm saying, you know, you having a situation put in place because it's not clear here on these situations, whereas there are people who celebrating birthday parties with children and stuff like that. Basically right now that he said anything that related to the Park and Recreation in Tuscaloosa was a park and stuff like that can't operate. And you know, we have kids having birthday parties in the park. We have stuff that's happening. But you know, but they're declaring because 8A weekend or any Alabama home game weekend, nothing can happen. So if someone happen to have it, they're deemed that they're having a public nuisance. There's a public nuisance. No alcohol being served, nothing like that. And that's the problem I'm having with this. This is a broad overreach. It's not being interpreted well, and it's put there. We have no issue about people being where people are being aware, but it was just being in a situation because, and they say, well, we charge a police officer. It may be case to charge a police officer would seem to be the case, but you know, just trying to close the event down and using a bill like this as ordinance, you know, to me is totally beyond what we should be as lawmakers upholding, because the citizens themselves, they also have a right and a permit to organize and to assemble together. Not that they're doing anything wrong, not that there are any public intentions, not that there's any alcohol being served, or even if it is being served, there's not anything being, unto him, Omega, he made reference to Apple Punch. I was famous for our Q Punch, you know, so I'm familiar with that. But you know, but in these cases, we're not talking about any alcohol being served, or if there's alcohol that people have on their own personal thing. It's nothing where anybody is doing stuff in an abusive manner. And I think right now, this language leaves too much to interpretate, and I think it just kind of gives folks the permit to broad classify stuff, still a narrow classify. And that's the issue that I have with this right now and everything. So how do you know? You know, how if I'm having my kid's birthday party and I reserve the shelter, and then they say, if they just way it's left here, I could be having a birthday party at my house. And because somebody says, well, they're having a birthday party at my house, it's a public nuisance and everything. You have too many cars on the street. It's a public nuisance and everything. And whereas it may be approval, maybe the residents, neighbors, all in agreement, but somebody says they're doing this and it's 8A weekend, and now I'm conducting a public nuisance. This is the broadness that I have with this particular bill. Now, that may not be B, but the way that I see it, it allows this type of overreach to happen with this bill, and that's the problem that I have with that. Can you give me broader, because alcohol is not in here and stuff like that, how do I know for certain that this does not create a police state from situations that has absolutely no reasons to be dealt with? Okay. And you know, and I'm also on the Park and Recreation Authority Board of Directors, so I see the stuff that we largely permit, but then they'll be told, no, you can't have them, we cut it down. That's a problem that I see that's happening and everything.
Sure. So as you know, as a para board member, you know, you have to go through para to reserve the rooms to be able to have your birthday party there or whatever. That's
out of para facility.
That's under the para facility. Right. That's totally unrelated to this bill. Secondly, we're not changing the definition of nuisance or the city or the university's ability to abate a nuisance. We're not changing that at all. Whatever the existing law is, that still remains. The only thing that's being altered is under unpermitted events. So you don't need a permit to have a birthday party. You know, there's a lot of things you don't need a permit for. Typically, when you do need a permit is when you're selling alcohol, but that's not the only thing. And that's a very narrow part that we're asking to be able to be reimbursed for, simply because of the extraordinary expenses that are incurred to shut down these parties, basically.
Well, and I understand that, but like I said, but what determines that birthday party is not improper permitted?
Well, you don't need a permit to have a birthday party. You only need you don't.
Well, I know that, but I'm just saying, but the way the broadness is given, that person can say, well, you got an event going on, it's not permitted. How do I defend that? Or the only time I can deal with it is in a court action, right? Because if they come in and say, well, you know, you got too many cars, you're blocking the street, you know, something like that, this is an improper permitted event. I didn't know I needed a permit. Well, as you said, you don't need a permit for a birthday party, but these are the things that are happening, you know, right now, and that's the concern that I have with this particular legislation right now. Not that I'm, you know, but I've seen it, I'm dealing with it, and I just think this kind of opens a floodgate, or kind of gives a permission to charge and deal with things that are operating in a proper manner. Nothing's there, but like I said, you know, here and having witnessed that, you know, event happened last year, which was properly permitted, but then they said it was a nuisance, given it was 8-day weekend and stuff like that, and these efforts are being taken place. This is where I'm coming from.
And I'm sorry, I don't know, you know, the facts of that, or we can certainly speak about it afterwards, but yeah, we tried to narrowly tailor it only to unpermitted events, meaning events that need to be permitted, so.
Yeah, but again, that's what I'm saying. How do the constituent know that? You know, that it should be, because, you know, alcohol is served, but it's not selling alcohol. You know, do you say where alcohol is being served, it needs to be permitted? You know, where is that defined?
When you charge for alcohol or admittance where you're giving away alcohol, that's the line.
Where they're giving away alcohol. So if someone's...
I don't mean like you're serving wine at your birthday party. You know, that doesn't require a permit. When you're charging people to come in to your party, that becomes a business operation. And they don't have a business license, they don't have insurance, they don't have permission to be selling that license from ABC or from the city to do that. Yeah. That's the line.
Well, again, I understand, but it's what you're saying and what I'm expecting is, you know, two different things. And I was throwing something which was a little bit more clarity in that regards and everything, because it does not say, you know, here that it's charging and everything. So it leaves that open for interpretation.
And I am happy to continue that conversation with you if we want. If there's language we can make it better, I'm happy to.
Well, that's what I just on that, because I would like it for it to be strictly.
The gentleman's time has expired. The chair now recognizes Representative Warren from Macon County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative, I hate to admit it, but I'm kind of confused because I hadn't had a chance to read your bill, and there are so many things that I have encountered in a rural environment that will probably affect this. So can you just give me a brief overview of, is this the substitute we're doing now?
We haven't introduced the substitute, but substitute takes out counties' ability to recoup costs. We originally had the counties in because they also, as you say, have this problem. But we, as a compromise in committee, that was an amendment we made in committee, so we removed counties.
Well, see, that's the problem. If you can't do it in the city and you're still gonna do it, you're going in the county to do it. And that's where these events are happening all the time, is in the county. And really, the county don't have the staff, the law enforcement or anything else. So I definitely think we got to keep the county. Why are you taking, who wants the county to come out?
Well, it was a group of interested people that came to me and asked the counties to, I think they were mostly concerned.
Because there are probably some of the people who are renting their properties out for them to do it on. Have you talked with what about the
I haven't
county?
talked to any of those people. And I can talk afterwards with you, but I will say this, counties also have the ability to abate nuisances under a different statute that they can, this session or next session, bring the same amendment if they so choose to try to be able to recoup costs also if they are incurring those extraordinary costs, which they probably are. So, I mean, it's nothing
it was sounding good to me, but now
Yeah.
that you're telling me that the sub is going to take the county out, we got to really work with governments and do what we can, especially, like I say, this is a very diverse body, and that's why when we make decisions, it might be good for you where you are, but it's bad for me where I am. So as we make these decisions, I mean, we got to make sure that everybody is protected. And I think your sub is just really, it just snatched my heart out because I know that's where we have all our big problems are in the county.
I'll say this to you. If that's something you're interested, I will be glad to work with you to help you draft the bill to bring it, okay, on behalf of the counties.
Yeah, because I mean,
nothing prohibiting us from doing that.
I can't, I mean, it has changed my whole attitude. And then, like I say, with the university, you know, they definitely need that authority because, see, so many of these parties, just like the one that happened at Tuskegee, it wasn't authorized by anybody. It was just a group of people that decided they were going to have a party. And you see what happened in that situation. So, I mean, those the institutions, as I say, cities, counties, and higher ed. The way you started it was the way it really should be. So I'm hoping that I'm not the only one who lives in a rural community that knows the trouble is in the county and really not in the municipalities.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Chestnut of Dallas.
Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I just want to echo what Representative Warren just stated. You're thinking about pulling the county out of it?
In the substitute, the county is removed. That's right.
Okay.
Now, listen,
I've
we're on the
got-
same team here, so let's you know, if we can get this passed, and you're interested, we'll come back. I'll help you next year. We'll talk to the counties and work with them to get that right.
Okay. So the counties don't want to be in it? Is that your understanding?
I'll fully explain afterwards, but there was a group that came to me that was worried that I don't even know how to articulate what their concern was. It had, you know, that public nuisance was being broadened under this. It's not, but that was their concern. And honestly, to get the bill through committee, that's what I agreed to do.
So
And I didn't hear from the counties at all. No objection to that from any county group or anything. So we went forward with it. If I'd had an objection, we would have worked with them.
Okay, because I was just recently at a county commission meeting about, Monday, and a sheriff's department was saying that something like this would actually help them do their job.
Well, and that's why
better.
we had them in there to start with, you know, because we put them in because we understand that the counties are having this issue also.
Well-
Not opposed to it.
Well, please reconsider keeping it the same way it is without the substitute.
Well, how about this? You help me get the substitute passed today, and we'll keep talking. And when it goes up to the Senate, if we want to try to make some changes, I'm happy to have those conversations.
Okay.
And I think we need to pull in, though, the representatives from the county that have the voice of the counties to make sure this is.
Okay, and tell me exactly what is the scope of what would be considered or deemed a public nuisance? And when I say that, I'm asking this question. Would, say, a bonfire, right, which I've heard that happens in some of these counties now, where there are bonfires, where individuals have, all this land and they, just burn the fire, playing loud music, alcoholic beverages, pay a cover charge. You don't necessarily buy it when you get in there, but you pay that cover charge, and it's understood, right? They'll have on the flyer BYOB, but that's not necessarily what's going on. And then you got neighbors who are complaining and complaining and complaining. They're coming to the commissioner saying, this is a problem. We need to do something about it, right? The sheriff's saying, sheriff's departments, we don't want to go in and do something because we don't know the boundaries or the limits of our authority. We don't have zoning, et cetera. Can you tell me, shed some light on whether or not those types of scenarios would fit within the public nuisance scope that you have with your bill?
Sure. So, first of all, again, we are not changing the scope or definition of public nuisance. If something's a public nuisance today, after we pass this bill, it's the same. We're not changing that at all. So whatever a county has the ability to abate as a public nuisance today, they'll, obviously, if they were still in here, it won't change. Cities won't change. Universities doesn't change. What changes is the ability to recoup the costs to go in and shut down parties that you just described. If they're small parties, no big deal, but often there's hundreds of people, and it's a very dangerous situation, which calls for lots of manpower, which means lots of costs to our municipalities and our universities to shut these down. That's what all we're trying to do in this bill is seek the ability to be reimbursed by the promoters of these events who are running unauthorized businesses. They're not licensed. They don't have a business license. They don't have an alcohol license. They don't have insurance. All the things they're supposed to have. They're not following the rules, and they're causing public safety hazard. And so it costs a lot of money to shut them down. Taxpayers should not have to pay for that. We ought to be able to go after the promoters to reimburse the cost. Currently, we cannot do that without this bill, and that's what this bill seeks to do.
Okay. That's why it needs to be in the county also. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Drummond of Mobile.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Where is, oh.
Sorry.
Thank you, my fellow colleague. I've been trying to hear, but it's been pretty difficult. Tell me how will this affect college campuses other than the University of Alabama? And I'm more concerned about USA, because there are a number of Greek organizations for which I'm a member of that we have college chapters, and they don't have houses on campus. So they plan events, and sometimes those events are used to raise money to help the chapter further its cause. So tell me, how would that be affected?
No change at all. It's currently, if they're selling alcohol, providing alcohol, they have to get a permit from the city. In Tuscaloosa, the universities, sororities and fraternities regularly come through the city council every week to get a license to have one of their parties. And so we have to make sure they have an alcohol license. We have to make sure they have insurance for the events, and they have to have security at the events. They follow the rules, no problem.
But I don't know if that's happening. Again, I don't know if that's happening on other university campuses or other municipalities. Because I've not heard that when it's on the campus that they have to come to the city council and get an alcohol permit or whatever. I mean, is that just the procedure for the University of Alabama?
No, this is a city of Tuscaloosa procedure that all major cities have probably the same procedures.
Okay, so you don't think if it's a legitimate event, and what if, my other concern, what if some outside agitator joins into their group, which they have no connection with, how will we, I'm trying to determine who will the liability fall to. I have a little bit of concern when you define public nuisance, because things can get out of hand by people who have nothing to do with the event.
Sure, not changing public nuisance at all, okay? Not changing that definition at all. We're just changing the ability for the city to seek reimbursement for costs against the promoters, the unauthorized business people, for promoters of the event. So this very narrow situation.
Yeah, but what if they're not responsible for the outside agitators that come to their permitted
Well, they're the ones that are violating the law by selling tickets, selling alcohol, promoting these events in an unlawful way.
With many of the Greek organizations, it's not a matter of just selling tickets. I mean, you know, people come. So I'm trying to determine how we determine who has that liability.
So one of the second change in the substitute, other than removing counties, that was the first one. The second one was, and I can read it, but basically it makes sure that we can only go after promoters of the events, and we cannot, if the event was held, say again, we're talking about a very narrow situation. So the event were held at an apartment complex or some business, and the business owner or the apartment owner or manager was unaware of the event and uninvolved in the planning or promotion of the event, cannot go after those business owners or landlords to be reimbursed. Can only go after the people that are promoting the event in an unlawful way.
Well, I guess tell me, in the substitute, how do we define promotions and organizations? I mean, who are they? I mean, because again, using the example of apartments, if there is a party in a person's apartment, I'm sure there's some person's name on a lease who's leasing the apartment. And if there's is that leasee the promoter?
If the lessee is part of the promotion and participates and helps the promoter, yes. If the lessee has nothing to do with it, is unaware of it, and they just falsely use their name, no.
So the police will determine that, or the municipalities?
Well, it's just it would be a factual situation in court. You know, you present the facts.
Okay. And I couldn't hear, I heard Warren and Chestnut talk about counties. Why were they exempt?
So we originally had counties in there, and there were groups that asked us to remove it, and so we presented it committee. Nobody had a problem with that, and so we
I just want to know why, because events happen there as well.
Sure, and that's why we included them. Happy to come back with another bill that includes them. They're under a different code section. That was part of the reason. They have an ability to debate nuisances, but their authority is a little bit different from municipalities, and that's one of the primary reasons.
Now, this bill no way entails denying anybody their First Amendment right for free speech.
No.
It only if they meet that definition of public nuisance.
The only thing this bill does is deal with seeking reimbursement of costs for unpermitted events. It has nothing to do with changing public nuisance.
And who sets the cost?
The
city set the cost?
Yes, they would have to present evidence. This would be in a court proceeding. They'd have to present evidence of what their extraordinary costs were.
Mm-hmm. So the cities will set that cost for them?
Well, they would present, how many police did they have to send? Did they have to send the fire squad out there? Did they have to, all they had to do and the cost associated with that, that would be a evidentiary proceeding in court if they were seeking reimbursement.
Okay, so we're talking about a whole court case that they will have to go to court and determine.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Chair recognizes Representative Hassel of Montgomery.
How you doing today? I just got
Good. Thank you.
I got a scenario, and I guess I want to get some clarity on this too. So, because they mentioned some shootings that happened, and I wanted to see how this bill will help that. For instance, it was a homecoming game that was here in Montgomery, and let's say I want a tailgate. I get the permit to tailgate, but I invite some people to come into my tailgate. I got an RV, they come into my tailgate, and a shooting happened. Find out, they do an investigation, they do their work, police officers do their work, and that person get tied to me. Will I be held liable?
Well, in that situation, it sounds like you were properly permitted to do what you were doing, so no.
That's right. So
Now, I mean, I don't know what else you did that might have been negligent or whatever while you were there, but no.
all right, but I get, and that's what kind of confused me, because I heard them list a lot of the shootings that happened.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that the Tuskegee shooting, we had a shooting here in Montgomery. Some of these people are permitted already, and I got to give credit to our universities. They did a great job of creating rules and doing the system that they already have in place.
Sure.
But the only thing that concerned me is you will have a gathering of people that come to our tailgates. And this bill can really deteriorate our tailgates that we have at our universities. Because if people want to come and they don't have a permit, but they want to come for the social aspect of it, and an incident happened and they don't have a permit, and who do you go after? They don't have a permit. But I think it's an overreach. I understand the concern. But my only problem with this is when you say, you're not going to redefine public nuisance, but then what determines morals? If, you might have two totally different moral standards.
Yeah, but this bill does not change that. No, it doesn't touch that. That's already in the law, and there's a whole bunch of case law that relates to that. This has nothing to do with that. It's just under that statute because so the cities and the universities already have the ability to do all of that. Nothing's changing. And nothing's changing about the definition of public nuisance. All that they're seeking is the ability to seek reimbursement in a very, very narrow circumstance. And that is with unpermitted events that they're having problems with across the state, where they're, and this is unpermitted events only.
Okay.
I'm not changing, we're not changing the definition of public nuisance, not giving them any broader powers to do or not do things, okay? Except for that reimbursement piece.
All right, but if I'm at a tailgate, an incident happens. I'm just on the campus.
Are you at a permitted event?
Let's say I'm just there.
You're following all the rules. You don't have a business that's selling tickets and selling alcohol and without a license and doing all that stuff.
So
you're just there having a good time at a tailgate.
I didn't have a permit. I did an event on the campus. It was a tailgate. I didn't have a permit. Now I did it for kids. I had a tailgate for kids. Now I didn't have to have the permit.
Okay.
But I did it for kids.
If you don't need a permit, then that would not be an unpermitted event.
It's not an unpermitted event?
If you don't need a permit to do whatever it is you did,
yes,
by law, then that would not be an unpermitted event.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you for clearing that for me.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you for the recognition. I've heard a lot of talk this morning as it relates to gathering. Didn't the Constitution say we have a right to assemble? And do I read that in the Constitution? Do I have to get permission to assemble?
Not necessarily, no, sir.
And you're going to stop me from assembling?
No, sir.
That's what this bill does.
No, sir.
It's overreach. It is telling people they can't come together.
That's not true, sir.
You just read it.
No, I'll be happy to read it to you.
I'm not selling anything, but people have come to assemble. They're having a wonderful time, and I become a nuisance.
That may be what you wanted to say, but that is not what it says,
That's what you
sir.
said. That's not a nuisance for me. That's a nuisance for you. But that's denying me a right to assemble. I heard someone talk about Greek college campus, tailgating. What would you call the rolling of Tillman's Corner? See, see, this is a problem. See, I don't know. I don't get where you're coming from with this bill. Now, that could be a nuisance to me.
This bill does not change whether you need a license or don't need a license to.
You said that. You said
Well,
that.
I mean, that's the truth.
You said that.
Yeah.
But you're still denying me the right to assemble
No, sir.
because it's a nuisance to you.
There are certain situations that
public nuisance.
that you need you need to be permitted to do. There are certain situations that would be if you're selling alcohol. Okay.
I don't think no
That's
alcohol
all-
is
that's-
being sold here. No
That's
alcohol
all we're
is-
doing here.
You don't need a license to sell alcohol in a community that's already
To the public.
permitted to sell alcohol.
To the public.
They do it all the time at the country club.
They have a license.
The country club doesn't have a license.
Yes, they do, sir.
No. No, they don't. Not where I stay. The city may have license, but the country club does not. They didn't apply for license. They didn't apply to sell alcohol. But they can sell it. And I know they don't have an alcohol license. I know that. And so it troubles me that these things are happening all of a sudden. People are getting together. We don't want them to get together. It's too much. It's a danger. No, it's not a danger. People are having fun with public. They enjoying themselves. There's some isolated incidents, and we can't stop. Even at the country club. And so, your purpose of this bill is to do what?
To seek reimbursements of extraordinary costs when there's been an unpermitted event and we've incurred extraordinary costs so that the taxpayers, you, don't have to pay for somebody else's.
Now, what city are you referring this to? Because there got to be a problem.
Any
But you're
municipality
gonna
in
make
the
the
state
whole
of
state.
Alabama.
You're gonna make the whole state suffer because of something happening.
Well, the whole state is suffering. It's everywhere.
What's everywhere?
These particular types of unpermitted events that are causing the
Somewhere I read about the freedom to assemble, the rights to petition, the freedom of speech. It's in the preamble of the Constitution. The Bill of Rights. I mean, you can talk that nice little talk, but it's underlined in here. You know, the devil is always in the details. And it's a certain, this is pointing at a certain segment of people in this state that comes together and celebrate and enjoy themselves. And it become a nuisance to other people.
Well, we already have public nuisance
That is-
statutes
no,
in the
no,
city and the county and
That was
universities.
not the question. I said, what you're doing is bringing out loud what's been talked in private. And it really troubles me that we have come to this point in the 21st century, the divisiveness that we have brought into this chamber, to move on, to carry on, to do the things that really is not democratic in nature. So we're moving into a police state. You can't come together unless I say so. That's a bad precedent that you're setting, and I hope this bill die in the Senate. Somebody got to stand up for democracy in this nation and in this state, because it's being wiped away little by little every day. Thank you for the time.
Question for the body is adoption of the substitute. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 66 yeas, 27 nays. The substitute is adopted. Chair now recognizes Representative Moore of Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative, I've listened to everyone that's come up here, and it's obvious we don't have a meeting of the mind because your bill is written on your notepad. The things that you're talking about is not in your bill, and that's what we're trying to tell you. Just because I have a party does not mean that it is a nuisance.
Right.
But at which point in time does that party turn into a nuisance that will require law enforcement or whomever have to come in to straighten it out and then clean up whatever the aftermath is? I think that's what you don't hear us saying.
Right.
Yeah, we know that this is all in place, and there are definitions for what would possibly cause some health problem or injuries, what would be immoral or be a detriment to the comfort and welfare of a citizen. But what we're saying is that all the things that you're talking about, having parties, they're not listed in your bill, or having an event, that's not listed in your bill, but we do know under in Section A, it talks about certain situations being caused. Then in Section B, you're talking about how it gives the authority the opportunity to come in, and if it's a nuisance, of how to clean it up and how it's going to be paid for. But our argument is that the things that you have listed before they could be a nuisance, but by nature of a person having a speaker on campus, then that event in itself is not a nuisance. At which point does it turn into a nuisance and require all of this? Because that's not in your bill. And what we're trying to say, what I'm trying to say, it's going to be one black woman's opinion, because what I've learned in this body since 2010, the Queen's English ain't well understood by both parties that's in this body. But what we're saying is you need to, if we're going to pass a law, let it be more specific to what we're talking about it. What you got here, the things that you have called about during a football game or this event, at which point does it become a nuisance? That it needs to be dealt with according to the information you got on line 22 through line 36. There, from line 16 to line 21, there is nothing in that part to indicate to me that the actions taking place in Part B should be taking place. And that's what my concern is. But what you've been talking about on your notes, I can understand how something needs to be done if an event gets out of control. But you can't put a list of situations that might get out of control and become a nuisance, but we need to know what it is. So when you drop down to Part B, from the way I read it, it's saying that any event that may or may not be under the nuisance law can be interpreted as that, because you're opening that door in Part B for people's interpretation of what it is. So by the time the actions have, and I understood one of my colleagues came up and you were saying that it would involve a court case or whatever for them to even be able to recruit the funds that they're looking for. Well, it might go that long period of time to get to the point, well, oh, this really shouldn't have been classified as a nuisance. Because once it gets to Part B, then it overreaches what's in Part A. And because in my opinion, it needs to be more definitive than what you got. Rather than to say, oh, the nuisance don't change. Well, it might be what we define as a nuisance. At what point does it become a nuisance? Just because they called out Toomer's Corner, just because I'm out there with my roll of toilet paper, until I do something to violate Toomer's Corner, me and my toilet paper are not a nuisance. But in Part B, I could very well be, just by virtue of the fact that I showed up. If that's defined as a nuisance, when I showed up with the roll of toilet paper, it became a nuisance. And I haven't done anything. And I think that the clarity is not in your bill, and that's what we're saying. And I don't think we'll clear that up, because our request for clarity won't be adhered to in this body. But I thank all of the people that read this bill and understand the difference between A and B. And that should cause all of us concern when we look at it, that, you know, it leaves a lot to somebody's own opinion to call in law enforcement or whoever they're gonna call and say, I think this situation is a nuisance, just because I'm irritated by it. They might not have done anything, but by the time we go through the process and get to the end, it might be determined that it's not a nuisance at all. So I think that's all we're looking for, is clarity. And it's just so unfortunate in this body now that we don't know how to compromise, that we come before with our bills and we don't work together unless all of us vote yes on the bills y'all have forth. But when we have an issue that we like to have cleared up before the bill passed, it's most unfortunate in these what used to be United States of America that we can't clear it up prior to the bill passing.
Chair recognizes Representative Bracey of Mobile.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the lady yield.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm back again, but I'm not, in all honesty, I'm not trying to filibuster the bill. I'm not going to try to take the entire time. I just have concerns about it, and my concerns go back to the fact that the bill is so small. And it's like the things that we're talking about are beyond this bill. And what people didn't realize sometimes, when they come up and speak in favor of your legislation and they're not the bill sponsor, it complicates things even more. And, you know, this is my buddy right here. It complicated it more for me because I didn't quite understand what this bill would do to stop the shootings that were mentioned, the shootings in Tuskegee, the shootings in Montgomery. What could this bill have possibly done if it was already in law that would have stopped those things from happening? I don't understand that. And when we tie those things together and say, you know, we need this, we need to support this legislation because we just had a shooting in Montgomery, we just had a shooting in Tuskegee, what does this bill have to do with that? If this bill was in place, would those things have or have not happened? We don't know. Well, would this bill being in place prevent things like that from happening in the future? Of course not. we know that these laws are not going to stop people from doing certain things. And I guess I serve on the board of trustees at ASU. And I'm just wondering, like, what does this mean for us? Who is the permitting authority? Who's the permitting authority on the campus? Who's the permitting authority in the city? What does a permit look like in the city compared to what it looks like on a campus of higher education? Why were the counties allowed to opt out and not be a part of this legislation? I think it's just a lot of unanswered questions that it just leave me confused, because a lot of times it's hard to get down to the true intent of legislation. You know, we can read it on paper, but it's like, what's the intent? What happened to make us have to get to this point to say that we need this legislation? Something had to happen. And I don't know what it is, and I just want some clarity, and I don't want to keep coming back, but I got another 10 minutes that I can come back.
And
I just want to know.
I'm happy to talk to you afterwards.
I mean, I would like to
point.
just talk now and just understand, how did we get here? What happened that brought this on? We know that the public nuisance part is already in existing law. We understand that. Why are we making the changes? Why did the county commission, why were they afforded the opportunity to opt out? Who's going to give the permits? Who's going to hold people accountable? Who's going to be the collection agency of saying that when these things happen, we're going to hold these people accountable? A lot of times when people throw parties, they don't put their own name on it. They may have an alias. It may be DJ Too Loose throwing a party and it's going down, or it may be this Greek letter organization throwing a party. Who's going to say that these are the people that are the organizers of the party and they should be held accountable, and we're going to have them to pay for the resources that was spent? I just don't understand how all of that happens. We're talking about something that's underground, basically. Because what I've heard, the gentleman that came up in support of the legislation, he talked about how this may pop up on social media at 11 o'clock at night. We don't have the manpower to go out. Well, this is underground. How are you going to figure out who the people are that you're going to hold accountable? And I guess I just don't understand it. And if you can help me get some understanding, I promise you my light won't come back on. I just want some understanding. I want to know how this will impact the University of Alabama State University, where I serve as on the board of trustees. I want to know how it impacts that. How do you get a permit? Is it a different process getting a permit in higher ed than it would be in the city? Who's enforcing it? Just some clarity on it, because in a one-page bill, it's just not there.
Sure, and it's not supposed to be there, because that's not what this section of the code deals with. But you do have, I'm sure, I'm not familiar personally, but I'm sure Alabama State, that you said, has, if you have functions on that campus, they have policies and procedures that you are to follow if you're going to do that. And you can ask whoever's in charge there what your policies and procedures are, and I'm sure they can tell you.
Okay.
So when students have parties on campus, they have a process they have to go through, and that's what they follow. As long as they follow that process, whatever it is, that would not be an unpermitted event. Same for the cities. They have policies and processes that you have to go through if you're going to sell alcohol and throw a party, okay? And you come before us to get a liquor license, you got to go to the state and get a liquor license. You got to have insurance. You need, if you're a business, which these are that are promoting these things, you have a business license. The sole purpose of this bill is very narrow, is to seek reimbursement for extraordinary costs when these unpermitted events have happened and we've had to employ large amounts of police manpower and other manpower to the scene to shut down the unpermitted event, okay? When it's gotten out of hand and it's a dangerous situation, that's it. So if we spend $100,000, it gives the city or the university, in that very narrow circumstance, the ability to seek through a court proceeding reimbursement for costs.
So the university would go after that person?
After the promoters, yes, that are
After the promoters.
Promoters, not necessarily people at the party, not the owner of the apartment complex, but the promoters.
So this is kind of like so this bill is targeting promoters. Okay. So what did the shootings and things like that were mentioned in support of the legislation have to do with it?
I do not know enough about any of those shootings to know whether they were unpermitted events or not. I don't know. If they were an unpermitted event, that would be an example, you know, of something that, but I don't know.
Well, I think both of them were during the games. They were like during the tailgating portion of a game or something like that, which I don't think this would impact at all,
Maybe
because
not.
that would have been through a sanctioned campus event where something happened.
Right.
So the person so just for clarity, like people throw parties all the time. So would they need to like just go and get a business license or like a peddler's license, or how would you get a permit? Like, do we have a setup in place for that right now? Okay, we have setups in the different cities for that. Now, and this would be my last question. Why are the counties allowed to opt out, but the cities it just doesn't seem to quite make sense for the counties to opt out, because a lot of things happen in the more rural areas as well.
Sure. Again, I did not talk with representatives of counties at all. Okay, so they're not allowed to opt out. The concern came from the Realtors Association, who was wearing two hats. On the one hand, they very much were in favor of the bill and they understand the problem. Okay, they also were concerned about private property rights. With counties and cities have different abilities to abate nuisances. And there's two different code sections. And so they didn't want the counties lumped into this code section. Have a
Okay.
separate code section for nuisance.
So-
That was their concern.
So would it be-
counties could bring their own section just like this under their code section if they wanted to. And I'm happy to work with them to do that.
Do you foresee, like, to make it complete?
It would be
happening?
helpful to counties, I think.
Be also a part of it?
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Question for the body's final passage of HB 280 is substituted. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 70 yeas, 22 nays, 8 abstentions. HB 280 passes. Clerk will call the next bill in the special order calendar.
On page 15 of the calendar, House Bill number 214 with substitute by Representative Gidley relating to school psychologist interstate licensure compact.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. This bill is part of our Military Veterans Compact. What it does, it creates, well, let me just read the synopsis quickly. So the bill would allow the Alabama Board of Examiners and Psychologists to enter into a school psychologist interstate licensure compact by adopting Article 6, Chapter 26, Title 34, Code of Alabama, as a means of providing uniformity in licensing requirements in interstate practice throughout party states. Basically, what this does, it just allows those that are coming into the state to move into that and ease the transfer from military families from one to the other. Mr. Pro Tem, I'll ask for the BIR, and I also, after that, I have a sub.
Chair recognizes Representative Moore of Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative, is there any cost attached to your bill?
No, ma'am. There's nothing changes. This basically doesn't, and you'll see in my sub in a moment.
I got the sub.
Okay. Doesn't change anything concerning any of the laws concerning Alabama. This only allows our people that are transferring in to come in with greater ease without having to go through all the process.
Do they come in for free to do work?
Well, they have to, now they have to, they're going to have to come under, make sure they're under the rules of the Alabama Psychology Association, okay? They're
But
gonna
when they
under
come
those
in, they're
rules.
coming in to do
If there
work.
is any expense, it's borne by the people that are coming in. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but the expense is borne by them, they pay for
If there
the
is
work that they're
expense,
gonna do?
If there is additional requirements for them coming in,
come in?
they would bear that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and where do they get their funding from?
Out of their pocket, I guess. I mean, they're not, if they're
These are
coming in.
independent and wealthy people coming in? I'm just,
Can't answer that question, ma'am.
and the reason I'm saying this, is when you're talking about the psychologists and the compact and what they're doing for the veteran, and right now veteran funds are being cut left and right, and I just want to know if we got something, which is a good thing. My brother is a veteran, a lot of family members, but after Vietnam, he incurred so many problems that needed psychiatric help in order for him to overcome. So if we're talking about people that can come in and be able to work with our veterans, the cost has got to be paid for somewhere. So we want, even though it's an interstate compact that we're doing, we want to make sure at the end of the day that the funding is there, and when they come in, they're able to do the work that they say that they're coming to do, because our
Let me
veterans
say
deserve
this,
it.
Representative Moore. This was vetted by the Alabama Board of Psychology. It was approved by them. Based on Jake Proctor, we even got a call from the Pentagon giving their approval for this. So all of this was vetted through those before we brought this bill.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, they could vet it, but if a cost is there, do they pay the cost? Or do the taxpayers
Not aware
pay
of
the
that,
cost?
no, ma'am. Mm-mm.
See, yeah, and I think we need to know, because it could be a situation that we're not able to have an effective compact where these psychiatrists are able to come into the state to help us, where if the funding is not there to help them. And I don't think they're going to be, I don't think that they're going to be independently wealthy
No, ma'am.
coming in to do the work.
But if they come in without this compact, the weight what they will have to bear is going to be much greater than it is with this compact.
Okay, so what, even that weight, who takes care of that?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. The weight of them coming in without this agreement here, this compact, is going to be much greater.
But still, somebody's got to pay the cost. Don't you think?
I would say so, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and I think that's where my concern is. It's not against the bill. I think the bill is good. But in the things that we do down here, we need to make sure that we just not passing paper with a lot of words on them, and then the actually putting it into action can't take place because we don't have the proper funding for it. I think that's the most important reason why we have a BIR before we pass the budget on anything that may have the possibility of impacting that. So that's why I asked the question, and with the climate that we're going through now, it's a good bill. And like I said, I've got a lot of family members, and right now, my youngest brother that's been going through different situations dealing with the Department of Veteran Affairs and his military service. So I know it's needed, but I do notice that with all the things that we put in place, there is a dollar amount attached to it at some point. And we need to make sure, even with this great bill that you got, that the appropriate funding is there to make sure that once like you said, if it's now don't have a comeback, the burden will be greater. If it does have a compact, the burden would be less. But we want to make sure that in either situation, that a cost is there for us to be able to accomplish our goals. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you so much, Representative Moore.
Question for the body is adoption of the BIR. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. You gonna vote, Jenny? Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 100 yeas, 0 nays. The BIR is adopted.
Mr. Pro Tem, I'll take a moment to give a synopsis on the sub. Basically, the sub says that nothing in this compact shall be interpreted to modify, amend, repeal, or supersede any state criminal or civil liability laws. The Alabama State Court shall retain sole. So basically, nothing changes any of our Alabama laws. They would supersede anything in this bill.
Question for the body is adoption of the sub. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 100 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is adopted.
Mr. Pro Tem, if there's no other discussion, I call for final passage.
Question for the body is final passage of HB 214 is substituted. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 102 yeas, no nays. HB 214 passes.
Thank you, members.
Clerk will call the next bill in the special order calendar.
On page 11 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 59 by Senator Chasteen relating to education.
Mr. Speaker, members, this is another military bill. This bill will authorize dependents of military and service members to use their medical records instead of the blue card for the students' enrollment. The purpose of this is as military, as they transition to our state, they have copies of their child medical records, including shot records. So this just expedites the process. Instead of using the blue card, they can use the medical records. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I'll call for the BIR.
Question for the body is adoption of the BIR. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 101 yeas, no nays. The BIR is adopted. Chair now recognizes Representative Moore of Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you got a good bill, but as I talked about the bill before, in light of the climate that we have in these United States of America and all of the cuts that's happening to our military and other departments in this country, is there any cost that we have for this, for what your bill is doing?
No, there's no cost. Just simply when the military service member come to our state, they will have their medical records. So instead of having to go to the health office or the doctor to transfer that to a blue card, they can utilize their medical records, take it to
And wouldn't there be a cost for them to transfer that?
No, ma'am.
Somebody pays the cost.
Just to show proof of their medical records?
No, you said they have to take the medical record to transfer the information to the blue card.
No, that's in lieu of doing that. Instead of having a blue card.
So some people have a blue card and some of them have the physical record?
Well, for service members, if we pass this, for service members, you will no longer have to utilize your blue card. You can use your medical records. The goal is to expedite the transition process.
So everybody already have a blue card?
As for non-military, it's a requirement, yes.
It is. So why would they have to take the physical medical record?
This for service members, families. If I'm stationed in Washington State, I fly into Alabama, and my child.
I understand that part, but what I'm saying that if they've already got a blue card, I'm thinking then that the blue card would have the information that's needed, right?
Well, yes, but every state do not require a blue card. So Alabama require a blue card.
Okay, but now they won't have to have the medical record. It's probably cost something for them to get the physical medical record in a state that requires you to bring the physical medical record versus you just showing your blue card.
Well, if we find out they charging our men and women.
We charge the men. Hey, I don't work. They charge you. These United States of America charge veterans for a lot. And if you find out, it's been happening for
Yeah,
a
let me
long
know.
time now. Did you know they've always charged veterans a certain amount yeah, for a lot of services. We even went through some presidencies where they had to pay for all of their services.
Well,
Yeah.
I've been out of the military for a while, but I
Yeah.
know
And I-
there's no cost to get copies of my medical records.
Somebody paid somewhere.
Okay. Well,
Would you agree with that? Somebody paid somewhere, even the place where you got the copy of your record. Somebody paid for the paper, somebody paid for the ink, somebody paid for the employee that did that.
right.
So that's all I'm saying is that if that's what you're going to convert for, where everybody will accept the blue card, then that cost to them, somebody paid something somewhere to make a copy of their medical record, because it don't just flow out there in the clouds anywhere for anybody to pick it up. So there was a cost. And I'm just trying to make sure that we are woke and aware that, you know, with all the changes that we're having in these United States of America, and we always take pride in telling our veterans, thank you for your services. But at the same time, we sit quietly by while their services are being cut and the people who provide their services are being fired. It's a good bill. We thank you for bringing it. But we got to be aware of all aspects of things that are happening to our veterans that we say were patriots, and we thank them for the service and putting their lives on the line in order to not only protect us, but allow us the freedoms that we have.
Right. Well, thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. I want to commend the brother for bringing such a good bill. So we're eliminating the immunization card when we transfer into a state, right? Just in Alabama.
Right. They can use their medical records.
You know, they have, those families probably had been immunized somewhere else.
Right, that's correct.
And so they don't have to go through that process. They just show their records.
That's correct.
Very good. And this morning we honored a 104-year-old veteran.
I know. World War II, we have a couple hundred still left, so we definitely appreciate that.
The greatest generation.
That's true.
They fought for democracy.
They did.
Now we got democracy falling from within.
Well, appreciate your service. I understand you serve this great nation.
Yes, sir. During the Vietnam era, people see you get off the plane and get on the bus, they tell you to sit in the back.
Yeah. Now you was Air Force, right?
Navy.
Okay, all right.
When you come home from service back then, you go fight for freedom and you get home and you don't have any freedom.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying? You know you understand what I'm saying?
Well, Vietnam.
And you don't understand why World War II went on? Do you not understand why that gentleman was in World War II?
Yeah.
And you see what's happening today?
Now, you mentioned about Vietnam, you know, those men and women.
That was a war that shouldn't have never been.
But when it came home, they created a pathway for people like myself. You know, everybody said, thank you for your service.
Because of protests, because of marching, demonstration. That's what brought that on, my brother.
Yeah.
The pathway, it wasn't given to you. We had to fight for it.
Right.
See, nothing come given to me. And the things that I have now, you're trying to take it away.
Well, like I said, thank you for your service. We actually have a total of 16
Thank you for your
veterans.
service. I appreciate you for your service.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And it's a good bill. But I just wanted to say that this morning. I wouldn't say that. I told the gentleman that we was honoring this morning. I said, you went and fought for democracy in another land. And here democracy being taken away from us in our own land by our own people. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question for the bodies, final passage of SB 59. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. All the members voted. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 100 yeas, no nays. SB 59 passes. Clerk, call the next bill in the special order calendar.
On page 12 of the calendar, House Bill number 157 by Representative Lee, relating to county officials.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This same bill we had last year, we passed, and many of you have seen people come down here with sheriff's bill to raise their salary up. But let me just give you a little history. Say, for instance, this includes county commissioners, county employees. If a sheriff is elected and he serves for 20 years, well, he gets a cost of living raise every year, every third year, I don't know. He will continue to follow the cost of living. Well, if a new person goes into that office, guess what they have to do? Unless they bring legislation here, they have to go back to the original salary when the previous sheriff came in. So what this does, it allows those increases in cost of living to be there when the new person comes in. With that, Mr. Speaker, I ask for BIR.
Question for the body is adoption of the BIR. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 102 yeas, no nays. The BIR is adopted.
Move for final passage.
Question for the body is final passage of HB 157. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 97 yeas, 0 nays, 5 abstentions. HB 157 passes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and the body.
Clerk will call the next bill in the special order calendar.
On page 11 of the calendar, House Bill number 222 by Representative Hill, relating to pardons and paroles.
Chair recognizes Mr. Hill.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this bill I was asked to bring by the Board of Pardons and Paroles. At the present time, our law does not allow the Board of Pardon and Parole to share electronic monitoring GPS-type data with other local law enforcement agencies. This bill will allow them to do so. With that, I would ask for the BIR.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote.
We got an amendment, sir. Okay.
Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 100 yeas, 0 nays. The BIR is adopted.
Thank you.
Chair
We have
recognize-
an amendment to this bill, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Bedsole for the purpose of offering an amendment.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
Clerk will receive the amendment.
Amendment to House Bill number 222 by Representative Bedsole.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Just a couple quick things in here that we wanted to place to ensure that this was continuity across all levels of law enforcement. The first portion of the amendment will amend some language that does not limit it to sharing that data with local law enforcement only. This will allow that data to be shared with our state law enforcement agencies. And then the other piece is recognizing an evolving technology when we talk about monitoring devices, that not only will the GPS data be shared, which is very important, but there's biometric data to prove that the person that was wearing the device was actually the person that should have been wearing the device. So things like thumb, fingerprints, and facial recognition. So that'll allow that data to be shared as well. That'll ensure that any kind of data used for prosecution is all bundled up tightly and we've got the right person.
And I certainly recognize that as a friendly amendment, so I would ask us to adopt that.
Question for the body's adoption of the amendment. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 95 yeas, no nays, 7 abstentions. The amendment is adopted.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. And then I would ask for final passage of as the bill as amended.
Chair recognizes Representative Hall of Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Certainly, Ms.
Are you able to tell me what is the cost per individual do you have any idea what these monitors cost?
I know, no ma'am, I really do not. However, I do know that several years ago, this body appropriated 2 pardons and paroles. I believe it was $800,000 to pay for the cost of GPS monitoring on those individuals that we put it on when we released them from prison.
Yeah, that was probably where I was headed with that. And do we have any idea what that data looks like, that information looks like? How many has benefited from that?
No, ma'am, I do
None
not
of that.
know. I do not know.
I'd
I
like
know
to-
this, they hadn't come back asking for any more money.
Be good to know, though.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree. I'd like to know how many too, Ms. Hall, but I don't know the answer to how many. I do know we appropriated money to handle that situation here in one of our budgets a few years ago.
okay. Now, when the amendment that was brought earlier said during an active investigation, it was talking about using all of this data.
Yes, ma'am.
Does that, so when you say that's an active investigation, is that an active investigation from, because the individual, if they have the monitor on, that means they've been charged with something.
Well, if they've got a monitor on, ma'am, it means they've been convicted of something. So most of the people that pardons and parole will put a monitor on are those individuals generally that are on parole.
Okay.
And consequently, that information about where that person is needs to be shared with, I think it ought to be shared with all law enforcement agencies.
You think it should be?
Sure.
Okay. And your reason for that is just to make sure they're all on the same page?
Yes, ma'am. So everybody knows what everybody's doing.
Thank you.
That's it. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Question for the body is final passage of HB 222 as amended. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 102 yeas, no nays. HB 222 passes.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Clerk, call the next bill on the special order calendar.
On page 17 of the calendar, House Bill number 17 by Representative Bolton relating to motor vehicles.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. HB 17 is what's called the Alabama Squat Truck Law, and we passed it through last year, and it just didn't make it all the way through. And basically what it does is establishes a regulation for the height of the front of a vehicle as opposed to the rear of a vehicle. So we don't have a situation of the hood getting too high for people to see young people in front of the truck, and also at night for the lights not to get out of kilter to where they're blinding drivers. The original bill is filed this time, however, it was filed in its original format from last time, and I do have a sub that I will have a sub which deletes just about 3 lines per agreement that I came to with the squat truck community. And with that, I'd like to ask for the BIR.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 98 yeas, 2 nays, and the BIR is adopted.
And we're ready now. Thank you.
Clerk will read the amendment. Is it a substitute or an amendment? Clerk will read the substitute.
Amendment to, substitute to House Bill number 17 by Representative Bolton.
Okay, what the substitute does, it just deletes lines 44 through 48 of the original bill. And what it does is it leaves in the monetary fine, but it takes out the points on driver's license, and it will be treated simply as an improper equipment violation without assigning driver's license points to the driver.
You've heard the explanation of the sub. The question for the body now is adoption of the sub. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 99 yeas, 3 abstentions. The substitute is adopted.
Yes, sir, I'd like to move for final passage of the substitute, as the bill as substituted.
Question for the body's final passage of HB 17 is substituted. The clerk will lock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 94 yeas, 3 nays, 4 abstentions. HB 17 passes. Clerk will call the next bill in the
Thank you,
special
Bobby.
order calendar.
On page 16 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 4 by Senator Elliott relating to school safety.
Representative Bedsole, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Members, we recognize the vital importance of our school resource officers in our public schools. This bill would allow for private schools to contract with municipalities or the sheriff's departments in their county to provide for a school resource officer within the private school. Under certain exceptions, we must ensure that the public schools are covered with SROs first before they can enter into these contracts. So with that, I call for the BIR.
Chair recognizes Representative Moore of Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representatives, since this will be an additional use for your sheriff departments, that means that they would need more people. So what's going to be the impact for them to include being able to furnish the, I guess, the amount of resource officers that they need for the private schools? So what impact is it on?
This would not make them enter into a contract, so it'd only allow them if they so desire to enter that contract. So this is a permissible. This just creates
That's
the
not
vehicle.
the question I'm asking. The question I'm asking that if they enter into a contract, what would be the impact of their manpower? Since now we know they do it for the public schools, so now they'll be doing it for private schools. So what would be the impact as it relate to the number of officers that they have?
What do you mean by impact?
Okay, will I have to hire some additional people in order to be able to go into a contract with a private school?
Not if you don't want to.
No, that ain't the answer. What I'm saying is this. Say I got 10 officers, and out of my 10 officers, I already used 3 for public schools. Okay. Now, I really would like to go into contract and under contract because this private school really needs the assistant. Now, but in order to do that, I might have to hire 2 more officers to do it. That's what I'm saying. And they might want to do it, and it might be a strain on the department to do it, but the reality of it all means that they might really need to hire somebody in order for them to do it. They want to do it, and they might try to, kind of take the scheduling around and do this and that to be able to give them some service rather than to say, no, we can't do anything. So that's what I'm saying is, do you think, even though I know they want to do it, but the reality might come out that I might have to hire another officer or 2 officers for it to be beneficial for me to do it, but I know they need some help.
Yes, you alluded to both. There's actually 2 options this could be accomplished. With existing personnel, if you had 10 officers, you're using 3 in schools already, that leaves you 7. If you thought with 1 of your 7 you could accomplish it, then you could.
Mm-hmm.
The other alternative would be by bringing on more staff, and it would be up to them to how they enter in that contract. It could mean that by this contract, they could actually go out and hire an additional
And
staff
have
member.
the monies to buy,
That's
to
right.
hire someone that's trained
That's
to
right.
be able to accomplish the
Yeah,
goal.
you would just hire an additional officer, train them up, and then
Okay.
you would supply that based off the contract. Either the person you hired or somebody else in your agency that's more qualified,
Right.
that's already trained as an SRO,
Mhm.
they would be a great fit. You might put them inside of that school.
Okay, I just want to make sure that thought process was there, and they don't try knowing the help is needed and go ahead and do it and you might really need another officer, somebody there for it to be
Very true.
to be effective. That's
Yes,
all.
ma'am. Thank you.
so very much.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Montgomery, Representative Ingram.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a great bill, and I tell you, we've got to make sure all our kids in our state are safe, and thank you for bringing this.
Yeah,
Great
awesome.
bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Hall of Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just trying to make sure I have clarity. I'm on page 2, line 51. Talks about a non-public school shall provide proof of occurrence-based liability insurance. You see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Which should be the primary coverage. Okay, in an amount no less than whatever that is. And then when I go over to number 3 on page 3, if the non-public school fails to have insurance coverage in full force, then they are assuming liability for all acts. Why would we put the officers in? Why would we go in if they didn't have the coverage?
So, under current provisions of the law, anytime an officer acts in an extra duty or off-duty capacity in his or her law enforcement role, there is a requirement under law that themselves personally have to have liability protection. So a lot of law enforcement officers carry off-duty liability protection.
Sure.
So I think what this is addressing is saying that it's going to put that burden on the private school or the institution to carry that liability and have that insurance in place.
Well, why give them that option? And when you have, the opportunity that they should,
Yeah,
Or
I
did
think
I
it
miss
was
something?
some clarifying language, and this is something we actually passed. So last year it passed out of the Senate, and it got to us here in the House, and we realized that we wanted to put some safeguards so that you couldn't go into a contract with a private school and not have your public schools covered. So we in the House worked on that language, but we also wanted to ensure that the liability remained. So I believe this language was just to emphasize that that liability should remain in the place it should, and that the officer, his or herself, is not incurring that liability, because when they operate under that contract, they are employed by that police department or sheriff's office, but they're operating inside of that private school as a contract. So I think that those in the know that help us sometimes with these bills wanted to ensure that the liability was going to be in the place it needs to be, solely because this person is a contract employee and not considered a regular duty law enforcement officer.
I guess that makes sense, but I hear what you're saying. I think that the other thing that I wanted to say, I've heard a lot statements made that we passed this bill last year sometime. Remember,
lot.
we have a lot of bills,
I know it.
and it does not help those of us to try to keep up with them. I think the best thing is to say we may have passed this bill, but many times we don't get all of the details.
Yeah, you're
when that
right.
statement is made.
You're
Thank you.
right. Thank you.
Question for the body is adoption of the BRR. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Read. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 102 yeas, no nays. BR is adopted.
Mr. Pro Tem, call for final passage.
Question for the body is now final passage of SB 4. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 102 yeas, no nays. SB 4 passes.
Thank you.
Clerk will call the next bill in the special order calendar.
On page 18 of the calendar, House Bill 18 with substitute by Representative Bolton relating to motor vehicles.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. HB 18 is our update of the child safety seat laws in the state of Alabama. This hasn't been done since around 2006, and there have been a number of changes to the NHTSA recommendations. Then I will also present an amendment at the appropriate time that just changes a couple of lines, and with that, I'd move for the BIR.
Chair recognizes Representative Collins of Morgan.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to appreciate you speaking, and I
Yes,
got
ma'am.
the forwarded email too about who was doing it. I do have some concerns about this. I think there are some others that have some concerns about the upper end, but I've tried to put a 2-year-old in a car seat. Even facing forward is hard occasionally, but backwards and from moving it from 20 to 35 pounds, their legs might not even fit on those car seats. I just have concerns about that.
Yeah, I understand that, like we discussed. Having a one-size-fits-all is kind of difficult anyway. And what we did, we had a lot of different agencies and organizations involved in crafting this. And this was a way that we could come out to comply, basically an update with the NHTSA recommendations there now. And what happened with the NHTSA recommendations is they were generally up the poundage of the children because the Academy of Pediatrics was seeing a larger child than they were back in 2006 when this was addressed the last time. And
they are larger children.
Yes, they
I agree
are.
with that. I'm larger too, and I
That's
can't,
it.
don't care for that either.
But,
I also just believe that when we're trying to do a standard, I don't know how you're going to monitor that. I mean, we're not going to weigh them. We're not going to do that. And
That's right.
a 2-year-old, usually if they can look around and distract and learn, there's a really good thing about learning from that environment, just from looking out and facing the back of that seat. I just have concerns with this bill.
Yes, ma'am. I
Thank you.
understand. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Pike, Representative Perrymore.
Thank you for the recognition. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
What's the weight limit on that'll be required under this bill now?
On this bill right here, under this required, it's 35 pounds. It's up to 35 pounds in weight under 2 years of age. At least, the child is at least 2 years of age and up to 35 pounds in weight for convertible seats and rear-facing position. And then for convertible seats in the forward position, it's at least 5 years old and up to 65 pounds in weight.
Okay, well, some of the members in this chamber have got some concerns. Representative Hulsey, Representative Ross, Representative DeBose, and myself.
Right.
We just want to make sure we can still drive ourselves to work and not have to be in a rear-facing seat.
Yeah, I want to make sure of that. But
Thank you.
I appreciate you, buddy.
Chair recognizes Representative Clark from Mobile.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, Representative. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Representative Clark.
I will be very brief.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a text from a constituent who's very concerned about this bill.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's along the same lines as the concern that Representative Terry Collins expressed.
Yes, ma'am.
So if I may, it just says, 1- and 2-year-olds don't want to be staring at a seat. The car seat is supposed to be in the back seat. They look out the windows when riding forward and observe everything, which is part of their learning. And that's exactly what Representative Collins said. Said you would need a second person riding in the back with them. We use mirrors to see them in rear-facing seats, but it's not the same. And she also said that convertible seats are probably more expensive.
Yes,
So I
ma'am, they
just
are.
wanted to share that text from one of my constituents who thinks that this is not good legislation.
Thank you.
I haven't had a child in a car seat in forever.
That's me.
So I'm depending on
45
input
years.
from my constituents on this bill. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Hollis from Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I myself had a few concerns about this bill. I don't know if you have any, but I have little nieces and nephews.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have most of the men in my family are tall. My nephew he's 4, I think, maybe 3, 4, but he's tall. So facing the seat could be a problem. And I don't know if you had little kids in your car and facing the seat and they're screaming and hollering and you can't get to them, or hand some snacks or whatever to them to stop them from going through whatever they're going through. So I'm just trying to understand, and I don't know, when I grew up, I ain't had no car seat.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I understand. It's been 45 years since I used one with a child.
Right. So I guess I don't know what motivated this bill.
What happened, the Academy of Pediatrics asked for us to update the bill, and Safe Kids Tuscaloosa also asked for us to update the standards to fit the NHTSA standards that are out now. So what we did is when we went to try to address it last year, we called together a consortium of all kind of organizations, including Children's Hospital, ALEA, Voices of Alabama Children, Safe Kids Alabama, Safe Kids Tuscaloosa, and the American Academy of Pediatrics, and we had a number of meetings, and we worked on this probably for about 2.5 months to where we could get it narrowed down to where it was compliant with the NHTSA standards, and it was satisfactory to law enforcement so they could realistically enforce it without unduly burdening the motorists.
So what was the I guess of solving whatever issue there is or was as far as the kid facing the seat, other than being able to face and looking straight, being able to look out the window, look at mom, dad, auntie, or whatever?
Yes, ma'am. Really what we did is we relied on that positioning with the NHTSA standards and with Children's Hospitals, with Ms. Marie Crew from Children's Hospital and Safe Kids to advise us on which way they should be facing.
I kind of echo what Representative Collins and Clark talked about, and I see some potential issues that's coming along, with this bill.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm looking at thinking about my nephew and how long he is. That's kind of, it's gonna be inconvenient.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
For him as a kid, and if something is going on, it's hard to get to. If you're sitting down, it's hard to get to that kid if the seat is turned the opposite way. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
Yeah. So that's the issues that I have.
Yes, ma'am. And also, I want to point out that mainly the child's safety is the primary thing that we're looking at here. And I don't know that, every individual situation may not fit in the definition of everything, but a little bit of that is going to have to be the discretion of the officer that's actually in the field of how, because, see, we're not going to be weighing the children in the field and stuff like that. Actually, another person that helped us with this, Officer Ronnie McDaniel out of Dothan. He had a situation where he had a child that was killed by not being in a collision when they were not in a restraint seat, and he learned that the driver had been ticketed 7 times and had never taken the lead on getting a child in a restraint seat. So when this bill came up originally, he reached out to me and he worked on us extensively with it also.
Was the seat in correctly?
No, actually, in that case, I think they just did not have the child in the seat. And what we were trying to do is make sure we encouraged that. Now, what I've done I've done a couple of things here with the, this year, with an amendment, with the sub, what we've done is we removed the mandatory court appearance that was in there originally for the first citation because the district judges didn't want to get real backed up. In another section from last year, we had put in a whole list of recommendations for children to be in a seatbelt in the back seat if they were under 13. Recommendations really not enforceable in law. So what we did, we took those out when we passed it through committee this time.
And then I'm also thinking about with the kid facing that seat, and if it is
Yes,
an
ma'am.
accident, then I'm also thinking about the compound that would have. You know, and I know we're talking about safety, but it's just that seat being turned backwards is what's
Yes,
getting me. And the concern for me is the impact that would have going that into the seat.
I understand. Basically what we do, and from my law enforcement experience, we rely on the research that's conducted by the National Highway Transit Traffic Safety Administration, and that's where these recommendations come from. And we just kind of, when they compile their recommendations and put them into recommended policies, we just take that and go with it because they've got the research to back it up.
Thank you. I appreciate your
Yes,
time.
ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Pro Tem.
Chair recognizes Representative DeBose of Shelby to be the fourth speaker on the BIR. Hold one second. Ladies and gentlemen, the question for the body is adoption of the BIR. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. The BR is not adopted.
Okay, thank you.
BR is not adopted. Clerk, call the next bill on the special order calendar.
On page 7 of the calendar, House Bill number 187 by Representative Hill relating to court fees.
Representative Hill.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a general bill, but there's a court cost that goes to every sheriff in this state that allows them to expend them for certain things. The court cost in this particular bill at this point in time restricts the sheriff in St. Clair County to expending this bill for jail purposes. What this bill does is allow the sheriff in St. Clair County to expend that particular fee that is allocated to him for law enforcement purposes. With that, sir, I would ask for the BIR.
Question before the body is adoption of the BR. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Have all the members voted? 102 yeas, no nays. The BR is adopted.
And I would ask that we adopt this bill, sir.
Question for the body is passage of HB 187. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 97 yeas, no nays, and 3 abstentions.
Thank you, sir.
HB 187 passes. Clerk, call the next bill on the special order calendar.
On page 6 of the calendar, House Bill number 44 by Representative Hill
Thank you, sir.
relating to teachers' retirement systems.
Thank you, sir. In St. Clair County, we have a day program. The day program deals with youth that are in our counties. It's a specialized school. It's a collaboration with the school, the court, the mental health facilities, and probation officers. What this bill would do is allow the employees of the St. Clair County Day program to opt in to the Teacher Retirement Fund if they choose to do so. With that, I'd ask for the BIR.
Chair recognizes Representative Moore of Jefferson.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative, if they opt to get into the retirement fund, do they pay for that or who pays for it?
They do.
The,
The employees.
the employee?
Most of these are teachers, but they're employed by the day program as opposed to the school, but it's still a part of the school curriculum. You know, it is a program that deals with kids who are in juvenile court, oftentimes who are behind, need remediation. They need mental health counseling. They need drug
So
and
these
alcohol
teachers do
counseling.
that.
So these individuals that are employed by the day program would be allowed to get into the teacher retirement program, so that because they're part of the school program if they opt in.
But are they paying the total cost of their retirement out of their pocket?
They're paying whatever they would have to make up everything that is owed up to this point in time, and then they would pay in just like every other teacher.
So the state don't contribute nothing to it?
Ma'am,
State doesn't contribute anything toward their retirement?
not other than they would any other teacher.
So are these people that do this service, because somewhere I'm thinking that their salary might not be on an equal level.
But it is.
It is. Do they get paid based upon their degree and the number of years they worked in the system?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They're teachers.
I know they teachers, but they might be part-time teachers. They could be in any category. I'm just not familiar how they are classified. And when you're talking about opting into the retirement system, I'm not sure about the level of pay they get to make them be able to do it. But if they're receiving the same level of pay as any other teacher that's coming in every day, that makes a difference. But if they're coming in as part-time people and only working so many hours a day, then that would make a difference too to the amount of money that they're expending to the retirement system.
These are full-time teachers that teach in the St. Clair County Day Program.
Okay.
And work with kids that are actually, these kids, when they go to the day program,
Yeah, I'm familiar with the programs, but
the
you
school
know,
continues to get the per diem,
Okay.
the monies that the state pays for attendance. That continues to flow to the school.
yeah, I know that, but I was just wondering, since you're bringing it up for St. Clair County, that you're allowing them to opt in, because most regular teachers that's in the system are usually already in the retirement system.
But these folks are actually employed by the day program as opposed to the school.
And the day program is funded separately.
It is funded by a number of different things.
Okay.
It's funded, certainly the schools all could, but we have two school systems. They both contribute to the day program. So does
But it's not
United
coming directly
Way.
from the state. So their funding doesn't come directly from the state in the education budget.
Comes
Okay.
right from the school.
Okay. Okay. So where do the schools get it? Through various grants?
Now, the schools get it, but I assume the way they do all of the rest of their monies. They get
No, you know, the school get the majority of their monies in the budget from the state. Then everything that they don't get from the state, they get through federal dollars in order to fund some certain programs that they have. That's what I'm wondering
sure,
about.
but a lot of that is funded to the schools because of the attendance. And these children,
I was a long-time school board.
I know, and these children are
That's why I said.
attendant. They are attending they're attending our schools.
Yeah, I know we have them too, but I'm not ours that we've always hired. They were our regular teachers, you know. And since you said that these people were not already in the state retirement, that's what caused me some concern as to why, when they were hired, that they didn't have that ability to sign up for the state retirement system, and they are just getting to the point where this bill will allow them the opportunity
Yes.
to opt in.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm just trying to figure out how
That's
it works.
exactly right.
Okay.
Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. We ready? 102 ayes, no nays. The BR is adopted.
Then I would ask for final passage.
Question for the body's final passage of HB 44. The clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Have all the members voted? Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 88 yeas, 0 nays, and 14 abstentions. HB 44 passes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a reminder to everyone to clean off and out your desk. The youth legislature from YMCA will be meeting tomorrow and Saturday. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I move the House stand adjourned.
All in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes clearly have it. Laissez la bon temps rouler.